guys, we have finally reached a power level high enough to be invited to our very first Chrom 100. It's basically one of the most difficult dungeons right now, and today I'm sharing with y'all everything I've learned on how to beat it. The first room is the easiest. Just spam your skills till everything's dead. The second room has an orb you can hit infinitely to spawn mobs, but each mob clear sends the party leader parts of a math equation they must solve for us to continue. So only be the leader if you're good at math. Room 3 requires a skill called Spinning Slasher because on the second wave, there are these monsters called Frozen Cari that you have to displace immediately as they spawn. If you don't, they'll activate an aura that massively buffs the defenses of nearby monsters. Then you go into a hallway where there are these NPCs you have to protect. There are mobs that spawn on the other side who ignore you and just run straight to them. And in room 5, it starts to get really hard. See those blue circles? That's the aura Frozen Cari's use that I mentioned. We can't disable them here, so we use Program, a technique that can reduce enemy magic defenses. And with enough hits, you can reduce them all the way down to 0. So we group everybody up and AoE them down with magic. There's also these bells in the corners of the room that you hit to increase something called a Pursuer's Gauge. It increases the chances of more mobs spawning in each room. However, it'll decrease the amount of mobs that spawn at the final boss room. Then there's another hallway where mobs can only be killed by being shoved into these dark clouds on the floor. You might get debuffed like me here, but walking into these red circles will spawn more dark clouds to shove enemies into. And in the second wave of this hallway, using Anchor Rush right as it spawns will prevent you from being debuffed by these monsters called Wraiths that prevent you from using pets. But there's also a second way, which you'll see us use in this next room, where we use the same strat we did against the Caris because there are these disciples that are really strong, except we keep one monster alive. This little jelly looking monster will begin self-destructing after taking a certain amount of hits, giving everyone time to mount a pet before the next wave spawns, allowing us to avoid the Wraith debuff without trying to time an Anchor Rush. Then finally the boss room where we fight Irusan. He spawns some mobs, but instead of fighting them, we just shove them into this corner and fight Irusan where they can't reach us. Every once in a while he'll gain this shield that can only be broken down by a number of hits, so you want to use abilities like Way of the Gun or use these weapons called ragdolls that we had, which provide chances to spawn these little guys that help us fight. All of his other moves are pretty easy to dodge. Sometimes he'll transform you, stopping DPS for a moment. One thing to notice, if he hits you twice, you die. All of his attacks apply a debuff that makes any of his other attacks just kill you. Eventually we kill Irusan, but it ain't over yet because there's a room right after with Caris, Disciples, Wraiths, everything we've seen so far in one room. And now the real boss, Giga. Glas. And yes, that is his real name. He's got this huge AoE move, a purple one that's a bit faster, laser beams that apply a debuff preventing pet summons, and this flying attack that you really want to dodge because it locks you to the ground, preventing you from avoiding this other attack he's got, where he throws out a bunch of black holes that kill you instantly. But he's not actually that hard to fight. Everything felt pretty easy to dodge after seeing it a few times. The problem is all of the ads that he spawns. At the beginning, he spawns these little floating heads that yeah, they hurt. You can bug them out though, just like the Frozen Caris with Spinning Slasher. Displace them while they're casting their explosion, and they'll end up just standing there doing nothing because they don't have any other moves. We shove him away into some corner and go back to fighting Glas. At some point, he'll summon 4 disciples in opposite corners of the room who have to be killed in a Z-shaped pattern starting from the top left. The red ones are immune to close combat, and the yellow ones can only be killed by pets. Next, he'll summon some mobs. Sometimes we just put them to sleep with Lullaby. Sometimes we clear them out with Program. And that's basically it. You DPS Glas, do the Disciples Mini-Game, DPS Glas some more, kill the mobs he spawns, rinse and repeat in that order, over and over and over. Eventually we get him down so low that when the next mob appears, we ignore them. And guys, fighting Glas with all the mobs around is so annoying. At one point we almost party wiped. Did I mention you can't use Neo to revive here? If the party wipes, you fail. But our party was way too good. Here he flies up at 0.02% health, but here he comes and boom, down he goes. You now know what it takes to complete Chrom 100. Check out this new title we just got. Looks like another big step towards becoming KodeVu.